For more on this, let's bring in Dr. Rebecca Grant. She is a national security military analyst, as well as president of IRIS Independent Research. Dr. Grant, always good to see you. You know, critics like Senator Lindsey Graham at the White House today, surely he told the president what he said in public, that it's a, quote, disaster in the making. It hands over Syria completely to Assad, Putin, and Iran, sells out the Kurds, and shakes our allies' faith. Or is the president making a wise decision, do you think? Is this a wise move by bowing to reality?
Well, let's put it in perspective. First of all, Trump sent about 2,000 additional forces with a bit more free tactical guidance, and they've achieved the mission that they were sent to do, which was to bring down ISIS. ISIS controls only 1% of the territory that they used to have. So I think the military forces in that specific region have already done what they do best. But Eric, please, let's remember that we are not pulling out of the region. We have 5,000 forces in Iraq. Our air power there is still very strong and still supporting activity on the ground. And we're part of that big Defeat ISIS coalition. What's happening here, though, is that we're going to see now if Syrian government forces will start to move into the northeast region and provide a little bit of that buffer between the Syrian rebel forces and the SDF and Turkey itself. Going to be very complicated over the next few weeks.
But one of the concerns and worries, as you know, is this could definitely and does embolden the Iranians, and the Iranians advance and their push in Syria at potentially our expense.
Yes, and Iran's push across the whole Middle East region is one of the real tragedies of the last decade. We see often, earlier this month, an Israeli strike against Iranian forces inside Syria. So containing Iran remains very important. But the fact is that our U.S. forces on the ground have been operating in a small slice of northeastern Syria, and that's not an area that we want to hold over time. So I think what Senator Graham is saying is that he's looked at a little bit more of the intelligence with the president, and they're waiting to see if Turkey and the Syrian rebel forces and even Russia can work something out to make that a more stable area. In the end, it's going to be up to the Syrians to stabilize that country. And make no mistake, we can go back in there anytime if Iran starts to create more mischief than we can tolerate. Special ops ready to go anytime they're needed.
We're 2,000 of our special ops. Was that enough to try and hold the line against not just Tehran's expansionism, but Russia's, as well as Assad's seeming victory, despite the butchery and the catastrophic disaster and human catastrophe that he has caused?
Well, again, to be clear, you know, these 2,000 forces, some of which were special ops and some of which were regular army, were working in a limited area in northeastern Syria. It's past too late to deal with Russia's presence. They have 2 long-term military bases there, and Russia will keep Assad in power. That, unfortunately, was lost many years ago, back in the 2014-2015 timeframe.
What do you think should have happened to prevent this? Should we have bombed the runways? You know, after the teenagers, this all started because teenagers started spray painting and protesting, and the parents got mad, and then it just exploded. Should, at some point, when the butchery started, that the Western powers, do you think should have bombed the runways to try and ground his helicopters so he wouldn't barrel bomb and kill his people?
Right, talking back to 2013, I think the Western powers now regret that we didn't take stronger action at that time. We had some good military options, and I think we regret now, easy to see. So what Trump did then was to try to augment forces just to clean up that rest of that middle Euphrates River Valley, and they've been very successful. They took back what they needed, and most of all, we went into Syria to secure Iraq and retake Iraq and make sure that ISIS couldn't use that part of Syria to overthrow Iraq. That was really our #1 objective, and that has been achieved.
There are concerns, of course, with 20 to 30,000 ISIS believers still believed to be there, that they will now reform, grow, and they could pose a continued threat to Europe and to our homeland.
Something we'll always have to watch, because ISIS is now switching from the geographic caliphate, which has been taken away, to a cyber caliphate, an attempt to use the internet to recruit. But again, they're down to a very small nub. That group may be there a long, long time. So it's going to be up to the rest of the Defeat ISIS coalition, which is still very active. Don't forget, France has about 1,000 forces on the ground there as well. The Defeat ISIS coalition has to rebuild Syria, help Syria destabilize and tamp down both the cyber and any business-related activities that could let ISIS grow again. But having Iraq more secure will help with that a lot as well. And we still need to work closely with Turkey, very key NATO ally in the region, very key to our stance against Russia. So we have to make sure that Turkey can tolerate the security situation in Syria as well.
Do you think Turkey can really be trusted? I mean, Erdogan talks about basically moving in and wiping out the Kurds. He sees some of the groups as terrorists.
Yes, that's right. And even Secretary Mattis has said that Turkey does have some legitimate security concerns because of the Kurdish insurgency. So here is the question, Eric. Will Syrian government forces be able to create some stability in that region? Oh, so very uncomfortable. But Turkey is a hugely important NATO ally. In a military perspective, they're a great ally. They have forces involved in Afghanistan now. And of course, Turkey controls the whole southern part of the Black Sea region. So on a military perspective, we get along very well with the Turkish military, and this is something they have to be part of any solution in that region as well as in the Black Sea region. So we have to go forward with Turkey, not in opposition to them.
So finally, quickly, how do you see it shaping up, a year from now? Who's protecting whom? What does it look like?
The best possible situation is that we start to see more humanitarian aid into Syria. We start to see some of the refugees return. We're talking about over 8 million refugees. And we see a truce with participation by Syrian government forces, agreed to by Turkey, and with the U.S. Air and Navy and Special Ops continuing to watch over that region. That is not going away. The U.S. will continue to watch over that region. Mark my words.
That's an important watchword. Dr. Rebecca Grant, always good to see you. Certainly, it's been a human stain, what's happened in that country, and hopefully it can end. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Laura?